Somewhere out there tonight, two people just lost their jobs on the same day. Same city, same rent, same empty bank account staring back at them from a cracked phone screen. One of them spends the next 3 months paralyzed, Googling how to survive being broke, watching financial disaster videos at 2 a.m., convinced the timing is wrong, the economy is broken, and the game was rigged against them from the start. The other one does one specific thing with the little money they have left. Just one thing. In 18 months, the second person has an emergency fund, zero credit card debt, and their first real investment account growing quietly in the background. Same starting point, same broken economy.
Completely different outcome. And the difference had nothing to do with income, luck, or some secret rich people playbook. It had everything to do with knowing which move to make first. This video is that move. My name's Marcus, and I've spent years studying exactly why smart, hardworking Americans stay broke while people with less talent and fewer advantages somehow end up wealthy. If you've ever stared at your bank account and felt that specific kind of quiet panic, the kind where you're not sure if you should cry or just go to sleep and hope the math changes by morning, make sure you subscribe.
And hit that like button, because by the end of this video, you'll have a step-by-step plan for exactly what to do with your money when you have almost none of it. No fluff, no just believe in yourself nonsense. A real sequence in the right order built specifically for 2026. Let's get into it. Before I give you the plan, I have to be straight with you about something most financial videos won't say out loud. Being broke in 2026 is genuinely harder than it was 5 years ago. This is not in your head. Inflation hit 3.8% earlier this year. The average American credit card is now charging between 21 and 24% interest. Rent in most major U.S. cities has gone up over 30% since 2020. And the job market, which was supposed to recover cleanly, is still being reshuffled by AI layoffs hitting white-collar workers in ways nobody predicted. So if you're sitting there feeling like the floor keeps moving, you're right. It is.
But here's what nobody tells you about being broke in a difficult economy. The chaos actually creates an opening. Because when everything feels uncertain, most people freeze. They wait. They hesitate. And hesitation in personal finance is the single most expensive thing a human being can do. While everyone else is frozen, the people who take one specific, boring action pull ahead by years. That action is not what you think. It is not picking the right stock. It is not finding a side hustle. It is not cutting out your morning coffee. It is something far more fundamental, and we are going to walk through it step by step right now. But first, I need to give you 60 seconds on why doing nothing is not a neutral choice. Because a lot of people in financial trouble think that holding still is safe. It is not. If you have money sitting in a regular checking account right now, it is losing value every single day. Inflation at 3.8% means that $10,000 sitting untouched today will only buy about $7,400 worth of groceries, gas, and rent in 10 years. The number on your screen stays the same. Your actual purchasing power quietly bleeds out. Your bank is paying you 0.38% while charging inflation 10 times that. That is not a savings account. That is a very polite way of getting poorer.
And on the other side of that equation, money that is working, even a small amount, even in the most boring account possible, compounds. A single $1,000 invested and left completely alone for 30 years at the market's historical average becomes roughly $17,400. You touched nothing. You did nothing. The money did everything. The gap between those two outcomes, the person who moved and the person who waited, is not talent. It is not timing. It is just the decision to start. So let's start. Step 1 has nothing to do with investing. I know that's not what you want to hear. You came here for the stock tips, the hot ETF, the one account that changes everything. And we are getting there. But the people who skip this step are the ones crying in my comments 2 years from now because they lost money they could not afford to lose. So stay with me. If you are broke in 2026, the first thing you do before touching a single investment is stop the bleeding. Look at your monthly expenses and find every dollar that is leaving your account for something you forgot you were paying for. The average American has 4.7 subscriptions they have not used in over 90 days. That is not a judgment. That is just math leaking quietly out of your life every month. Cancel everything non-essential for 90 days. Not forever, just 90 days. Because 90 days of redirected subscription money is often the exact seed capital you need to start the next step. While you are doing that, write down every debt you carry and the interest rate next to it. Not the monthly payment, the interest rate. This distinction matters more than almost anything else in personal finance. Because here is the thing nobody frames correctly. Paying off a credit card charging 22% interest is mathematically identical to finding an investment that pays you a guaranteed, tax-free, zero-risk 22% return. Warren Buffett, the greatest investor in human history, averaged about 20% per year over his entire career. The stock market, on a great decade, might return 10%. Your credit card is beating both of them every single month. So every dollar above your minimum payment that goes toward high-interest debt is the highest returning investment available to any American right now. That is not motivational language. That is arithmetic. Kill the high-interest debt first. Anything above 7% interest gets destroyed before serious investing begins. Below 5%, like older student loans or car payments, you can move forward alongside it. Between 5 and 7, that is a judgment call. Do whichever one lets you sleep at night. Step 2 is the one that actually protects everything else you are about to build. The emergency fund. I already hear you. You are broke. What emergency fund? Bear with me for 90 seconds, because this is the move that separates people who build wealth from people who almost built wealth. Here's the problem nobody talks about. Market crashes have genuinely terrible timing. They show up in the same month as your layoff, your transmission going out, your kid's medical bill. And if your investments are your only financial cushion, you will be forced to sell them at the exact bottom of the market, turning a temporary paper loss into a permanent real one. The emergency fund is not a savings goal. It is armor for your portfolio. It is the thing that lets you look at a crashing market, feel absolutely nothing, and do the most powerful thing in investing, which is nothing. You do not need 6 months saved before you start. That would take too long, and time matters. Get 1 month of essential expenses into a high-yield savings account. Not your regular bank account, paying 0.38%. A high-yield account, which in 2026 is paying around 3.5%, because the Fed is still holding rates elevated. Same FDIC protection, takes 10 minutes to open online. Marcus by Goldman Sachs, Ally, and SoFi are the 3 I would look at first. 1 month saved. That is your starter buffer. Now you are ready to actually invest. Step 3 is where most broke Americans leave free money sitting on a table with a sign on it. If you have a job, any job, that offers a 4 frame it. If your employer matches 50 cents for every dollar you put in up to 6% of your salary, that is an instant, guaranteed 50% return on your money before the market does a single thing. There is nothing in finance that touches that. Not crypto, not real estate, not anything. Yet about 1 in 4 American workers does not contribute enough to capture their full match. Collectively, that is $24 billion in free money left on the table every single year. The average person forfeiting around $1,336 annually, which compounded over 20 years is roughly $43,000. Abandoned mostly because the HR enrollment form was confusing. Log into your 401k portal this week. Contribute at least enough to get every dollar of the match. That is all. You are not trying to max it out yet. Just capture the free money. Everything above that can wait. Step 4 is the account that quietly changed the math for more Americans than any other financial product in history, and almost nobody under 40 knows it exists: the Roth IRA. You open this yourself, online at any major brokerage, Fidelity, Vanguard, or Schwab. It takes about as long as ordering food. In 2026, you can contribute up to $7,500 per year, as long as you earn under $153,000 as a single filer. Here is the deal the Roth offers you. You pay taxes on the money today. It grows for decades, and then every single penny, including all the growth, comes out completely tax-free in retirement. For someone starting from broke, this is almost unfairly good, because right now you are probably in the lowest tax bracket of your entire life. Paying taxes at your career's cheapest rate today in exchange for never paying taxes again on 30 or 40 years of compounding growth is one of the most lopsided trades a normal person has access to. The government is essentially letting you pay tax on the seed and keep the entire tree for free. One more thing about the Roth that nobody mentions to beginners. Your direct contributions, not the growth, just the money you put in, can be withdrawn at any time for any reason without penalty. Which means for someone nervous about locking money away, the Roth is actually one of the most forgiving accounts in existence. It rewards you for staying in and does not punish you too hard for leaving.
Now, let's talk about what you actually put inside these accounts. Because here is where most beginners make the mistake that costs them the most money over a lifetime. They think investing means picking stocks, watching charts, finding the next Nvidia before everyone else does. That is not investing. That is gambling with extra steps and a Bloomberg terminal. Real investing, the kind that has created more American millionaires than any other strategy in history, is almost embarrassingly boring. You buy a total market index fund. You set up an automatic monthly contribution. You do not look at it. That is the entire strategy. An index fund is not one company. It is hundreds or thousands of companies bundled together. When you buy VTI, that is the Vanguard Total Stock Market ETF, you own a tiny piece of Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, and 3,500 other American businesses simultaneously. When one of them collapses, it barely registers. When the whole market grows, you grow with it. The fees are almost nothing. The historical returns over every 20-year period in American market history have been positive. Every single one, including the ones containing the Great Depression, the dot-com crash, 2008, and COVID. The boring fund wins every time. Not because it is smart, because it removes the one variable that destroys most investors: you. And that brings me to the most important thing in this entire video. The thing that will determine whether any of this works for you. JP Morgan studied what happens when you invest $10,000 in the S&P 500 and leave it alone for 20 years, versus what happens if you miss just the 10 best single days in that same stretch. 10 days out of roughly 5,000 trading days. The investor who stayed fully invested turned $10,000 into $64,800. The investor who missed the 10 best days ended up with $29,700, less than half, for missing 10 days. And here's the part that should make you never want to touch your portfolio again. 7 of the 10 best days in that study happened within 15 days of the 10 worst days. The best days and the worst days are neighbors. They go to the same parties. The moment you panic sell after a terrible week, the moment that feels most responsible and most adult, is statistically the exact moment you are about to miss the explosive rebound that your entire 30-year return depends on. Your portfolio's worst enemy is not the economy. It is not inflation. It is not even bad stocks. It is you at 2 a.m. with your phone in your hand and a CNBC notification on your screen. The single most powerful thing you can do after building this plan is put your phone down and go live your life. So let's go back to where we started. Two people, same broken starting point, same difficult economy. One of them is still waiting for the right moment, still researching, still convinced that being smart about it means being careful about it. The other one stopped the bleeding, built 1 month of breathing room, captured the free money at work, opened a Roth IRA, bought the boring fund, and set up an automatic transfer. That person is not smarter. They are not luckier. They just understood one thing that the other person is still missing. The best time to start was 10 years ago. The second best time is before you finish watching this video. If this gave you something real, share it with someone who needs it. And if you want the next step, I will see you in the next one.